The new card or window card feature in FileMaker 16 allows you to display a layout as a dialog. Now this is a special dialog that is modal to the current window. You may have seen it in the iOS or Mac OS X interface where a dialog drops down from the title bar. It's pretty cool. Try it out. The most common place I've seen it is on the Mac OS X when you have a document that hasn't been saved, you close it, it'll say where do you want to save this, and it'll drop right down from the title bar. So there are literally endless possibilities with this new card feature since it's based on a layout. That's the critical part there. You make a layout and it displays in a dialog, but it's a little bit different than a regular dialog because it's modal to the current window, not to the whole application. We'll show you what that means. What I'm going to show you here is simply one example. There's so many things you can do with this. What I'm going to show you is an example of a picker. But think of the basics here. If you have a show custom dialog, what have you always wanted to do with it? Well, you wanted more buttons. You wanted more fields as input. You've wanted graphics in there. You wanted a look and feel that you could change. That's what this gives you at the most basic level. What we're going to show you is how to do a picker. So let's demo it first. What we have here is an ordinary invoicing solution. And over here, where my mouse is, there's a place where you can click and hold down and pop up a menu and go and find what you want. Now, if you have a couple hundred names, probably okay. If you have 1,000 names, yeah, maybe type ahead will work because you can go ahead and type and it'll find where you're at on there. But a lot of people like pickers for a large amount of names. So if I hit the tab, you'll notice that what I get is your first glimpse of this card feature, this window card. And you can see how it's dimmed out the background here, right? There's a little close here, so I can close it anytime I want. I'll tab back in there so it comes back up. And what I can do is come in here and start typing. Type in John. Okay, great. Then I can use the arrow keys. Now this is critical. I've designed this in such a way that a keyboard person doesn't have to touch the mouse. Of course, a mouse person could come down here and click on what choice they want, but a keyboard person will want to do, an enter key to select it once they've gone the arrow keys. And you can see how it selects that person. I can come back in there, tab in there, type in what I want, go down to where I want it, type the enter key, and it selects it, puts it right in there for you. Just like you would. All we're doing is populating a foreign key here, and so all these are related fields right in here. So it's pretty cool stuff what you can do. Now let's show you the modalness of this. If I create a new window and then go ahead and open that up, notice that I can move this around and it's inside the window, right? I can click back to this window and then click back into here. It's modal to the current window, and so when you close the window, you actually can't close this whole window right. You have to close this first, and then you can close this window. So let's take a look at the layout that makes that dialog. So we'll go into layout mode, go to the last layout, and you'll see here it's a simple list view. I haven't done much with it except make it a little bit smaller than a normal list view would be. Looks like I got a little letter on there, so I'll take it off. There you go. And so let's command or control click on this, and we can see that this runs on object modify the find list view. And then we have another script trigger running. It's layout based, and you can see it right here. Now this one has nothing to do with the technique that we're running now. This one does picker keyboard. It runs on layout keystroke. So remember those two things. We'll go into our scripts. We'll type in find here. And you notice one nifty little change in the script workspace is it highlights the word that you're searching for. I don't find that very useful because I already know it's in there. I've typed it in there up at the top, but I think some people might find it handy. Then I can click on Find List View. I do Allow User Abort, Set Error Capture. Remember, this is running on Object Modify, so each time I type a character, it's going to run the script. Now it's going to test what table I'm in by using a custom function. The custom function is really simple. It says, get the first word of the layout name, and then it goes ahead and compares it to the word customers. If it's that, then do this. If it's invoices. So what I've made is adaptive to the different tables. So in the case of customers, this is all it does right here because that's where we're in. We're looking at customers. It's going to put the X search, which is that value in there, that global field value that we've typed in there, put that into find criteria, into to requests, and do a search on it. It's going to do it right down here, and then we're going to say to find 0 records. If so, we'll say nothing was found. If the criteria is empty, then we're going to show all records rather than saying you don't have any find criteria. That seemed like a better choice to me. And then we need to go back to that field. I've named this object xSearch. I've named it Quick Find, so we can go back to that field, because remember, running this every time we type a letter happens really quick in the background. I type a J, it runs a script, then goes back to the field, because going into find mode and back to browse mode, all of a sudden we're not in that field anymore, so we have to go back. So each time we type a letter, it goes, runs the find, and then comes back, and nobody knows that you're actually running a script trigger. It's a really cool feature. So that's that. That's what reduces or expands your list. Now, how do we get it so that it runs, we can have it keyboard driven in selecting your actual final choice? We'll come down here into our search criteria, type in picker. I've got good naming conventions here, so I can quickly find what I want. I first commit the records. Now this is really a choice. When you tab, you're tabbing into the foreign key field, and I just don't want to see that field selected. So as soon as I've tabbed into it, and when it enters that field, I didn't show that script trigger, but when it enters that field, it actually triggers this script to run. And then I just want to get rid of that selection because it really shouldn't be selected. I then go ahead and initialize that xSearch field. And then here's what you've been waiting for. Here's the new feature. You can either get it to run the card to show itself by doing a new window, or by doing a go to related record, and there's a window option in there. And you'll see that there's the 3 other choices we had: document, floating, and dialog. Now they've added card. Same choices down here. You can name your window. You can come in here and choose what layout. You can set the height, the width, where it is located from top and left. And you can see I've left the from left here. I just want it centered, so I left it empty. But I've left the top. I want it to be right at the top, like a standard traditional card window. And then I've figured out the size just by looking at layout dimensions and experimenting, and set the size the way I liked it. And then all these options are available. Well, only one of them really is. You can see that they're dimmed out for the card, but close is available, and there's a new one called dim parent window that's available. So you can see if I choose this, it's not available for that. It's only for cards here. So very cool. You can set this up. You have 2 options down here. That's really all there is. And then what I do once I show the new window is I show all records, go to the first record, and then go to the search field to set it up. Then at that point, it's all about typing. So we have the keyboard, right? We already saw what happens when we type into that field, but what happens when we do the arrow key? Well, here's the arrow keys. And you can tell that, first of all, at the top here, I've looked at the trigger keystroke and gotten the code of it, because what's the value? How do you look at the trigger keystroke for an arrow key or the enter key or a delete key or any of those keys? Well, you have to take that keystroke and turn it into a code. And so the code for the down arrow is 31, up arrow is 29. You can see by previous and next here. And then 10 is the enter key. So you can see that in here we go ahead and run that script. Now I did something a little bit extra here just for fun. I wanted to make it so that we could do almost all this functionality in one script step rather than have this long if statement, because some people like this stuff. I think it's kind of neat. So what I did was I set the record number. I looked at the keys, right? We'd already set those up there, right? Outside of there, so we need that one still, the set variable. I checked the key and then said record +1 or record -1. Now the only thing I can't do is perform the script, but I thought it was kind of neat that I could take most of this and put it in one step here. In fact, I could actually take the code get trigger keystroke, put it right inside there, and I wouldn't even need the set variable. But I'm going to go with this because I need to run the picker select, which we're going to show you next. When the person hits the enter key, we're going to set the primary key for the customer into a variable, close the window. Now this is going to be the the card window, not the actual window. And in fact, it's interesting to notice that close window is the same step you use to close a card. And then once we close the card, we're back in the invoices context, right? We've actually changed context when we went into the card. Now we're back to the context of invoices, and we're going to put that variable value right into invoices. So that's pretty cool stuff. Now, what I did in here, let's go back over here to our invoices, and let's show you what's here. Now, if I move this, there's two of the same fields right on top of each other. Now, I didn't show you this, but there's an on object enter picker open. That's a pretty basic one, pretty easy to do. But I've made this a very small font size, and I've allowed entry into this field. We'll go over here and show it. So browse mode. Now this one I've allowed entry also, but I've pulled this one, this pop-up menu, which is a pop-up menu showing customers. This is for the mouse people. I've gone ahead and taken it out of the tab order so somebody won't tab into it. So I want to bring attention to this thing that people forget about. There are mouse people, and there are keyboard people, and there are hybrids. You need to really cater to both ends of the spectrum. So that's why I've taken the extra work and put this pop-up menu here for the mouse people and this option for the keyboard people. And why I've taken great pains inside that card window, if we go back into browse mode, I've taken great pains to make sure that even if they do tab into there, they can still use their mouse to do what they want by clicking on the choice or scrolling up and down and do whatever they want. So always design your solutions that way. Now, when you go ahead and think about the card window feature, you might use it for something very simple at first, but think about how it is different from a popover, different from a show custom dialog, different from opening up a new window or going to a different layout. It's just another tool in your tool belt.